I'm Maria, and today we're going to talk about how to show last updated date on WordPress posts and pages. One way of revealing the timeliness of your content is by displaying the last updated date somewhere on a WordPress blog post or page, like above or below the featured image, title, or the entire article. This way, the user sees the most recently updated date along with the published date. Or you can replace the published date altogether. In short, the display date ends up being more recent, indicating to the reader and search engines that your content is fresh. In this video, I will show you how to make this happen. But before we get too far, I want to let you know that there will be links to more resources in the video's description. And remember, subscribe and ring that bell to get notifications for future helpful content. Now, let's show that last updated date. The first two methods require you to access your site's theme files, so read up on WordPress file hierarchies if you're not experienced yet. Go ahead and check out these three methods with me to understand the best course of action in your situation. The first method for adding the last updated date in WordPress involves accessing your theme's functions.php file and adding code to the file. As an alternative, you can add that code to a child theme or site-specific plugin to avoid any issues with the code disappearing if you switch or update the theme. All of those options use the same type of CSS code, so we'll give you bits of code to add and show you how to place it in a functions.php file. If using a child theme or site-specific plugin, simply take that same code and modify those files. To begin, go to your theme's functions.php file. The easiest way to access functions.php is connecting with SFTP using an FTP client. You can generally find it in your FTP client by going to www, then public, then WP content, then themes, then theme name. Open the file using a text or markdown editor, then add the following code. This code should also work if using a child theme or site-specific plugin. Save and upload the file back to your server. As a result, the last updated date appears right before your post's content. The code initially checks if the published date and last updated dates are the same. If they are the same, you'll still see the published date by itself. If they're different, the last updated date gets shown along with the published date. The new PHP code in functions.php lacks styling, but it may still end up looking acceptable from your theme's styling. If not, consider styling the last updated date by inserting custom CSS code to control how it looks. Here's some example code to try out or expand upon. Notice we're using the last updated date class that correlates to the PHP code inserted into functions.php. You can change this for your own purposes, but make sure you also use the same class in your CSS code. Note, it's entirely possible to change the CSS properties and values depending on your needs. These are just the examples. Insert that CSS code into the field after going to Appearance, then Customize, then Additional CSS in WordPress. This enables the CSS site-wide instead of only on one page or post. After publishing the CSS code, these styling changes get reflected on all front-end instances of the last updated dates. For instance, we changed the background color, font family, font size, and also transformed everything to uppercase lettering. You may now find that just about every page on your website has a last updated date, and that's no good, considering you have no reason to show when pages like the homepage, product pages, About Us page, and shopping cart were last updated. This privacy policy page, for instance, now shows when it was last updated, even though that's useless information for someone who lands on the page, and the theme didn't show the published date in the first place. If you find yourself in this situation, it's probably because of your theme. Some WordPress themes automatically strip pages of their last updated and published dates since there's no reason for them. But you may end up with a theme without those capabilities. In that case, all you need is a simple addition to the previously implemented PHP code. So go back to your theme's functions.php file and add this code and make sure it looks like this. With this addition, the recently updated date text gets hidden from every WordPress post type that isn't a post, like pages or products. It's common for the publish date to stick around even after you implement the code to add the last updated date. Some themes remove it, but it's not all that common. The problem is that now you have two dates showing on your WordPress posts, the publish date and the last updated date. Although some situations may make this acceptable, two dates most likely cause confusion for the reader. So you might want to hide the publish date but keep around the last updated date. There are plugins to make this happen, but the CSS fix is a simple one, so we don't recommend installing an entire plugin just to remove one element of your site. To get rid of the publish date but keep the last updated date, go to Appearance, then Customize, then Additional CSS in the WordPress dashboard. Paste this code into the additional CSS field. Click the Publish button to put those changes into effect. You should now see the publish date removed, but the last updated date is still shown. Keep in mind that although the .entryDate CSS class name is common in a wide range of themes, it's not used in all themes. So, if this particular code doesn't work for you, it's most likely because your theme uses a class name that's not .entryDate. But the CSS code is still good. So all you have to do is figure out the class name your theme uses for the publish date. For that, navigate to the front end of a blog post and right-click on the publish date currently showing. Select the Inspect option. This varies based on your browser. Chrome uses Inspect, Firefox uses Inspect Element, and for Safari you must hit the Option key and C. This reveals the developer's tools section in your browser, which displays coding elements of your current page, particularly the CSS code of the page element you just clicked. It should show up as the main element if you clicked on the date, but if not, look for a section for the time class tag. The CSS class for your publish date should appear right after that. In this case, it's entry date, but developers use many variations of this when creating themes, like post date, post state, and publish date. Only copy that class. Paste the code in the following CSS snippet, replacing your themes-class-name. Make sure you keep the period before the class name. And that should do the trick. One quick and codeless way to remove the publish date but still keep around the last updated date is by entirely removing date formatting in the WordPress general settings. In WordPress, go to Settings, then General. Then scroll down to the Date Format and Time Format sections. Choose the custom option for both and clear out the example formatting in each field. Click the Save Changes button at the bottom. As a result, no more published dates appear on your blog posts, or any post type for that matter. Yet the last updated date remains, as long as you've implemented the necessary code to show the last updated date in the functions.php file. Theme developers use varying templates within the theme's files to display information. Most of the time, a theme template dictates where and how the post metadata shows up on the theme. You may have to conduct some searching, but the idea is to locate the template and the code within that template responsible for sharing a post state and time on the front end. Again, developers differ on the templates used, but it's common to see the publish date code in one of these templates. It's left up to the developer's discretion and their own style, so you must dig around to figure out where the right code is located, or to locate a file named differently than the ones listed. Here are some options for finding the right theme file. Send a message to the theme developer and ask which theme template controls the output of published dates for posts. You could also complete a search online or in a theme's user forum. Check out the most common theme templates. You can start with index.php, page.php, and single.php for simpler themes, but most modern themes use files like template parts, excerpts, and ink. Use the FTP client's search function to look for instances of text like posted, time, date, get the time, or get the date. For this example, we're using the 2021 theme, and we found that the published date code is located in the template tags.php file. giving you an idea of how there's not much standardization from theme developers. Indicators of the publish date in this file include a reference to the time class, get the date code, publish text. When you find indicators like that, decide on an area within that code that makes sense to place the last updated date. It's usually best to insert the new code before or after the section that already displays the published date. Copy this code and paste it into your desired spot. Working with template files tends to take a little longer to find the right folders, but it pays off with several benefits, mainly that the last updated date actually gets shown in multiple areas. One of those areas is right where you inserted the code for posts. In this example, we can now see the last updated date and text at the bottom of the article, right above the publish date. Changing the theme template also provides the last updated date on the main blog or archive page, where all WordPress posts get listed in sequence. Therefore, every updated post reveals the date in the list, giving site visitors even more transparency on the freshness of your content. Theme templates dictate how dates appear on WordPress posts, but they also decide where the date gets listed on a post. Since it depends on the theme and its template structure, you may find that one theme presents the published and last updated dates at the top of the post, right below the title but above the content. Other theme developers opt to reveal dates towards the bottom, like prior to the author's biography, or even somewhere unique like in the sidebar. Therefore, it's required to use theme templates to adjust where the last updated or published date gets placed on a post. Sometimes this means simply moving the code you inserted in method 2 somewhere else in that same PHP file. Other times, that PHP file is actually a template part file, which then gets pulled by a master template that organizes all the template parts, resulting in the post's format. Using our 2021 theme example, it's clear that the template tags.php file is only a small piece that eventually gets inserted into a master post theme file. Therefore, it's your job to either ask the developer which theme template handles post formatting or do some research on your own. Although we can't guarantee this works for every theme, it's an excellent starting point to look for a master theme template called something like single.php, content single.php, or even post.php. For the 2021 theme, we can actually insert the last updated code in either single.php or content single.php, seeing as how single.php serves as the master template file, but content single.php is the template part that single.php is pulling from. To move the location of the last updated date, take the code mentioned in method 2 and paste it where you want it to go. We can see that this file has a header section and a snippet for the content. So we'll place the last updated date code right between those two, moving the date from the default position below the content to right before the content. On the front end, the last updated date now appears where we want it to, and you can either remove the repeated date from the previous location towards the bottom or leave them both in there. Since the usage and names of theme templates change from theme to theme, we'll show you how to insert the last updated date in a few themes that are popular for their multi-purpose design options and speed: Astra, Neve, and Zakra. The first, Astra, is a well-known multi-purpose theme with a library of free starter templates. Each of those starter templates adds new files to the theme template directory, but the basic structure remains the same. For this tutorial, we installed a starter template and now want to add a last updated to the top of each post. To give you an idea of how different each theme works, the Astra theme, with its travel blog starter template, doesn't even show the published date by default. Regardless, you can still add the last updated date. To insert the date using method 1 from this video, go to WP Content, then Themes, /Astra in your FTP client. Open the functions.php file. Paste the method 1 code at the end of the file and save it to your server. The result is the last updated date showing up at the top of your blog posts. Using method 2, find the theme template called single-layout.php. It's located under Astra, then template parts, then single. You're using the same code, but some theme templates require you to specify you're using PHP code. So add the bracket around the code if you're seeing code on the front end and not the rendered date. It should look like this. Place the snippet right above the line that includes the content code. Saving and uploading that new file to the server generates a recently updated line before the content starts on the Astra theme. The Neve theme provides an excellent reminder to always check the WordPress customizer before messing around with any code. Every theme adds its own settings within the customizer, so you may just find a toggle to only display the last updated date. And that's exactly the case with Neve. To turn on the setting in WordPress, go to Appearance, then Customize, then Layout, then Blog or Archive. Click on the Post Meta dropdown. Make sure the date is visible under Meta Order. Then turn on the option to use last updated date instead of the published one. The most recent date then gets shown on the blog page and each individual post. Zakra is another tricky one where you might think to go to the template parts folder in your WordPress files in order to find the code that serves up the publish date. However, the right spot is within the ink folder. To add the last updated date to Zakra, connect via an FTP client and go to your site's themes folder. Then navigate to Zakra, ink, template tags.php. Open the file for editing. Paste the previously discussed code here. Save the file back to the server. The date now appears on the front end of all posts for the Zakra theme. As you may have noticed several times throughout this video, every theme has its own built-in styling, CSS code, and PHP functionality. Therefore, it's impossible to tell how each theme responds to our example code. In addition, many themes already have the proper styling or even show the last updated date without you having to make any adjustments. Regardless of the situation, most problems when dealing with the last updated date arise because of hard-coded theme files or some sort of uniqueness within the files. Therefore, it's often best to contact your theme developer and mention what you're trying to achieve. They can often provide a quick solution with the proper CSS or PHP code required for your particular situation. We recommend using one of the methods mentioned already to modify post dates prior to relying on a plugin. That's because every plugin you add creates more potential for performance and security issues. This particular date change is a small one, so we'd rather avoid adding a plugin when all you have to do is edit the functions.php file or a theme template. Having said that, you may find that none of the mentioned methods work, or they don't function the way you want. In that case, consider installing and activating the WP Last Modified Info plugin. This plugin takes the guesswork out of the equation, allowing you to add the last updated date, adjust settings, like to replace the publish date, and format the date's appearance and placement. Once activated, go to Settings, then WP Last Modified Info in the WordPress dashboard. On the Post Options page, turn on the switch to Enable for posts or pages on front end. You can also choose to change the display method to before content, after content, replace publish date, and manual by using a short code. Scroll down on the page to locate other settings for date formatting, and time gap. Save those settings to reveal the last updated date on the front end of your site. If something doesn't look quite right, go back to the settings to see if there's something available to fix it to what you want to see. Automatically, the plugin activates the last updated date for pages as well. If you'd like to remove that default, go back to the plugin settings to fill in the post types to show modified info field. Simply type posts into the field to ensure that nothing gets updated on the page's post type. With all the changes set, be sure to click the Save Settings button. Let us know in the comments if you have any further questions about how to show the last updated date on your WordPress website. Kinsta's WordPress hosting can speed up your website by up to 200%, and you'll get 24/7 support from our expert WordPress engineers. We offer 2 months free with any annual plan, a 30-day money-back guarantee, and unlimited free basic migrations from any host. Head over to kinsta.com/plans to get started. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tutorials, explainers, and helpful content like this.